Hi, I'm Callie. Thanks for having me here tonight. Yesterday is my mortal nemesis, February 14th, the holiday that must not be named. Listen, if you happen to celebrate yesterday, we're cool. I'm not subtweeting you here. I'm just saying the things we do yesterday, really, like, maybe we'd get our food faster if half the population didn't go out to dinner on exactly the same night. And maybe we shouldn't be giving little babies angel wings and ranged weaponry. And maybe we can just be a little bit more mindful about the facts that all these shapes that we've been calling hearts are not at all the shape of our hearts. They're the shape of butts, right? They're butts. Just these inflamed red baboon cabooses everywhere I look all day yesterday. Listen, instead of that, we should all take advantage of today's great deals on candy and flowers and those sticker sheets full of baboon bums and use that loot to properly celebrate that actually awesome holiday of February 18th. This Saturday is Elm Farm Ollie Day. How many people here know the tale of Elm Farm Ollie? Oh, awesome, the person I've told that story to before. Okay, for the rest of you, here is why I've celebrated Elm Farm Ollie every year since I first read about it in the February 1998 issue of 17 magazine. It was the St. Louis International Air Exposition, February 18th, 1930. Elm Farm Ollie left her home in Bismarck, Missouri, 72 miles south of St. Louis, and got on a Ford tri-motor airplane. Her first time in the air. She'd never even left Bismarck before. On that flight to St. Louis, she produced 24 quarts of milk. Oh, I forgot to mention she was a cow. The most productive milk cow at Elm Farm. Ollie's milk was poured into milk cartons on the plane, and the milk cartons were attached to parachutes, and the parachutes were dropped over Greater St. Louis. Elm Farm Ollie was the first cow ever to fly. I'm attracted to this story at this time of year because that is what love really is. Love is as miraculous as a flying cow. Love is as unpredictable and unearnable as being out minding your business when a parachute floats gently down to you with a little carton of fresh milk attached. Love is as impossible and inevitable as being trapped inside some newfangled corrugated aluminum flying machine and giving what you can't help giving. Love is impossible because, just look at this world. And love is inevitable. Because, just look at yourselves. I'm really lucky. I've caught some parachutes. I have a lot of love in my life. But there have been times when I've felt so alone that it's like a hole in my chest that I can't hold closed. Maybe you felt loneliness like that too. Maybe someone's feeling that here today. Even on most days when I feel personally well-loved, I look out at the world and I see how much love there ought to be and how much less than that there seems to be, and I feel that same ache. This can pose a problem when I'm singing here at Sanctuary. A lot of our tunes say, "You are enough, you are loved, you are whole." Every time this community shares joys and sorrows, we sing, "There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in that love." That's a big love. And near the end, we always sing that we're each made holy, loved right through. Not just loved, but all the way through in a way that sanctifies us, like a divine microwave oven that heats perfectly evenly. And it's hard to sing when you're fighting a lump in your throat. And words like, we have all that we need, and we were all born infinitely whole, can really get me. Sometimes they get me because it's such a relief to feel that feeling of wholeness. Sometimes because I wish we'd all learned these things sooner. But sometimes they get me because I'm having a hard time believing them. And it hurts to live in a world where it's possible not to believe them. In these moments, I ask, how can we say love holds us if we can't always find it when we need it the most? What does it mean to be loved right through in times when there's no one there to help us? How can we rest in love when love doesn't seem to keep people safe from artillery fire, from wildfires, from the rise of fascism, from the rising tides? On Wednesdays, when I don't believe those words, singing them anyway becomes for me a kind of prayer, a specific kind of prayer. Anne Lamott talks about the 3 essential kinds of prayers in a book called Help, Thanks, Wow. Prayers for help, help. Prayers of gratitude, thanks. Prayers of wonder, wow. I think there's at least one more essential prayer, though. Help, thanks, wow, and why? Why? A prayer of lament. Why does this have to be so hard? Why is this happening? How could anybody let this happen? What the heck? How am I supposed to go on like this? Why me? Why them? Why them and not me? What is the point of all this suffering? This sucks. This doesn't make sense. Why are we so cruel to each other? Why are we so alone? I feel like I'm buried in the earth. Where is love in this? Where in hell is the spirit of life and love? Those are prayers of lament. When we sing, we rest in this love, knowing there are people who can't rest today. And we feel the pain of the gap between the world and the words. That's lament. When I sing loved right through, even though I've just been talking to a friend who feels like they're late to the love buffet and everything that's been packed up, that's lament. When I sass Valentine's Day to channel my anger about how many people aren't loved the way they ought to be, that's a kind of lament. When I attach too much wistful meaning to a publicity stunt from February 1930, that's lament too. Lament is what we're praying when we admit to one another that we don't know how we're going to get through this. It's what we're praying when we mourn the costs of climate crisis. It's what we're praying when we open up about our experiences of violence. It's what we're praying when we say the names of Black people murdered by police. Lament sometimes has political impact, but I don't think we usually do it because we've calculated that it's the most efficient tactic to cause a change. Lament sometimes helps us heal, but not quickly or obviously. Lament sometimes recruits other people's help, but it's not even the most reliable way to do that. I think it's important because we just have to do it. We are social mammals born to love, and when things are hard, we cry together. We get angry together. We despair together. Today's reflection, as Matt mentioned, is the second in a series of 4 called Grow Where You're Planted. I interpret that theme as asking how we thrive and change, how we grow, while being real about our circumstances, where we're planted. But being real about our circumstances doesn't mean we have to be fine with them, right? Growing where I'm planted doesn't mean I just sit there and hope to grow. Sometimes I might need to get the heck out of this pot and into totally fresh dirt. Sometimes I need to cry out for water and light and send out roots and shoots toward it. Sometimes I can't do a damn thing about my soil, but I need to acknowledge what nutrients I'm short on to figure out what I can do. I want to live as if the truth were true, and I have to lament the hard parts to do that. I like to give homework, so here's your homework for today. 3 parts, ungraded. Part 1, find some grief that you have about some way the world ought to have more love in it, and share that lament with someone else. Part 2, share in someone else's lament. Cry or ask why or rage with them. Part 3, see what happens. My own experience is that sometimes, just by sharing our pain about the lack of love in the world, we create a world with just a little bit more love in it. So to recap your homework, mourn in front of someone, mourn with someone. See what happens. Now, this last part of the story is a little morbid, and I promise I'm not trying to turn anybody vegan, but a milk cow produces milk because she's given birth recently. And cows are social mammals too. If the cow and her calf were allowed to stay together, the cow would save her best milk for the calf, and the farm would get lower quality milk and less of it. Elm Farm Ollie was probably pregnant for 8 years of her life, giving birth to maybe 10 calves. She would have spent a single day with each of them and then never saw them again. The gifts that Elm Farm Ollie gave the world came from losses she'd experienced. Okay, I admit that's a little bit of a stretch for the cow story, but when I look around, I do see so many people responding to their pain with magnificent love, right? It doesn't cancel out the pain. It doesn't redeem the pain. And it's not required of us, and it's not always possible, but it sometimes happens. And I think that outpouring of love is only possible after we've really let ourselves grieve the lack of love that caused our pain. So it's true that those milk cartons Elm Farm Ollie filled over St. Louis are a symbol of how impossible and inevitable love is. But they're also a reminder of how loss can turn to love through the power of lament. A reminder to grieve with everyone who feels like there's a hole in their chest that they can't hold closed. With all those who aren't safe enough, who aren't loved enough. A reminder to share our own grief when that's us. Because lamenting the scarcity of love together makes love less scarce. Like Ollie with her milk carton parachutes, we take our prayers of lament, our sadness and our anger and our despair, the songs that we sing together, and we release them to the open air, never knowing where the wind takes them. And that's love too. You are who I love. You struggling to love or find a question. You are who I love. You weeping or touching the faces of the weeping. You decent with rage, so in love with the earth. You who beat and did not beat the odds. You are who I love, summoning the courage, making the cobbler, sharing the difficult news, sharpening the pencil, speaking plainly about your pain. I love your working heart, how each of its gestures, tiny or big, stand beside my own agony, building a forest there. Each of us looking out from the gorgeous unlikelihood of our lives at all, witnesses to each other's tenderness. You are who I love. You are who I love. You and you and you are who